President William Ruto, then as deputy president, was a rabble-rouser. He was equal to the task and made it very difficult for the president to overlook him, because he was a strong machine, what I mean?
Yes.
And you come to 2022 and President William Ruto takes Rigathi Gachagua, someone who as well matched his push, one would say, that would sit at the table as equals, But the president, knowing very well what he did in the previous administration, there was no way he was going to have Rigathi Gachagua there, because he knew, like, this man could change things in the long run. Therefore, the president today, would I be right to say that, or would I be wrong if I say that the president therefore wants a weakling as a deputy president, someone he can control, someone who cannot challenge him on things that are happening, and that the deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, today is seen as a weakling who cannot stand up to the president and call him out, because the president today as deputy president would stand against his boss and say, a guy, I can run the show. So is it a question of the deputy president looking at a weak link, and that even as we go to 2027, it is the same strategy that he will be applying?
If you are to use your analogy, then in 2022, Rigathi Gachagua was a weakling. If you are to use that. If it was a case of trying to look for a weakling, then Rigathi was a weakling. Why? He was a first-term MP.
No, but
number two, because I just want to show you the difference.
Let me correct that.
Because Rigathi then and Rigathi now are two different.
Let me correct that.
Yeah.
Rigathi Gachagua, as even in the negotiations, because we know in the voting within the party UDA on who won, that was Kithure Kindiki. But William Ruto settled for Rigathi Gachagua because of the push, because of who he was at the political space at the time. So he was not a weakling. The president knew he needed Rigathi Gachagua to win the Mount Kenya vote. So therefore, even the getting rid of Rigathi Gachagua was because he knew the cog that Rigathi was to his government, and getting rid of him, there was no way he was going to replace Rigathi Gachagua with another Rigathi Gachagua. He needed someone that he could talk down to and who would not stand up to him.
My answer to that is quite simple. Politics is very dynamic and very progressive. The political situation then and now significantly changed, and I'll have a reason why. Let's start with why Rigathi Gachagua was picked. Rigathi Gachagua was picked because in president's calculation, Azimio had already picked on Martha Karua. Because if you talk about Mount Kenya, you have mainstream Mount Kenya being Kikuyu. And then the Mount Kenya East, which is then made of the Meru, Tharaka-Nithi, Embu, as a top-up, cousins to the main. So the vote block here you're referring to is the Kikuyu, then the cousin. Though it's a constituency that has always voted single-handedly as a block, except maybe 92, when Matiba and Kibaki split the vote. And then and if you remember the split of 92, Kibaki swept Mount Kenya East. Matiba swept the rank-and-file Kikuyu constituencies, which is from Kiambu all the way to Kirinyaga. You come to 97, and to 97 Kibaki consolidated. In 2002 they split. Uhuru kind of did well in Kiambu, which is his backyard. But since then, 2007 coming forward, they've always voted as a block. So I think the calculation then was, if Azimio has a mainstream Kikuyu as a number 2 in form of Martha Karua, then we must have a card against that. And that is why you could see the president be laboring the rank and file MPs from Mount Kenya that, yes, I know you would be comfortable with Kithure Kindiki. If you are to use the circumstances then, Kithure Kindiki was senior to Rigathi. This is a person who had come in as a majority leader in the first term of Jubilee government and then became a deputy speaker in 2017. So if by all means, between 2012 and 2022, Kindiki was a senior most leader. And that's why it was easy for the Mount Kenya MPs, majority of them, to insist that let me just finish. If you are to have a running mate, then it should be Kithure Kindiki. But in his wisdom, which is basically political calculation, it comes to what we are doing now. Why do you think there's that jostling for this DP position? Have you curiously mentioned that Waiguru is equally making a case for it? Because you may want to use the same card and say if Rigathi was picked then. However, now coming to the point, so the choice of Rigathi then was not for a weakling, but was for the numbers. Now this is the danger. William Ruto felt that his